They get health care. They get like 180 paid maternity leave. Zoya was on one of my Nick and Night shows telling me the strength of the working class, the pro worker protections that they have in Russia. And meanwhile, they want us to think that Russia is some right wing dystopian hellhole. And you guys want to know why I've been saying to liberals on Twitter just to kind of fuck with them when they pretend that Russia is this evil place? I'm like, hey, liberal, you know that you can get an abortion in Russia? You can't get an abortion in my state, fam. So who's really the dystopian country? And in Russia, once again, they got stronger worker rights. Me and Zoe, we covered this before, where this person was like, man, and if Russians had to put up with what Americans put up in terms of paid time off, the fact they don't have health care, they would be in the streets, fam. Heads would start to roll. But Putin has 75 to 80% approval rate, depending on the poll, because he takes care of his people.
Even higher now. And, the military conflict is the operation that they're doing. They're trying to get rid of the neo-Nazis. They are real. It's not propaganda. There are many, a part of the 12% of the Ukrainian parliament was Banderites. Bandera was a war criminal and a Nazi and killed hundreds of thousands of people. And they worship them. You see the swastikas. BBC even did a thing where they said, could you cover your swastikas, and tried to block them out. I mean, it's ridiculous to say it's propaganda when, yes, there are neo-Nazis in Ukraine, and they unfortunately have a lot of control over that government by gunpoint, right? And they've been killing civilians, more than 14,000 for 8 years. And a lot of the Russians wanted Putin to go in. They wanted him to protect the Russian nationals that were being, targeted, not allowed to speak their language, not allowed to be Russian Orthodox Christians, and being bombed, So now we have spent billions of dollars in Ukraine while we have 600,000 plus people homeless, the highest child poverty rate, and you guys all have been covering this. It's staggering. And then with just this thing that just happened with Maui, Biden's just walked away. Like, he went on vacation again. What is that?
Yeah, and you have we're gonna roast George Takaya here soon, because he's one of the people that say if you criticize the government for sending money to Nazis in Ukraine over our own citizens, you are now a Russian plant now, according to liberals. And to your point about Nazis being Ukraine being real, there's so many examples. But to me, I think this is one of the most damning examples out of all of them you can show, because you have our Congress that literally removed the ban that they have on funding neo-Nazis from their year-end spending bill in 2016. So this is the government acknowledging this. You had Ro Khanna in 2018 that protested this. He tweeted about the dangers of funding Nazis in Ukraine. And now all of a sudden they're just far right. They're just a far right organization. Something else that you touched on before we move on to our the first story we get to is you mentioned how you thought that Joe Biden, you said in 2019 he would try to start World War III. Anyone who actually paid attention said that. That's why anyone who buy the lies that Democrats are the lesser of two evils, you can only reach that conclusion if you only pay attention to 5% of politics, as I say it. Because if you don't pay attention to foreign policy, you're missing 95% of politics. Like, you barely know what's going on if you're one of the people that only care about domestic policy. This is why no one could ever convince me that Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden is worse than Trump. And what you've seen with Joe Biden, to your point, Tara, is them continuing what Hillary Clinton would have done if she won. So Hillary Clinton saw Barack Obama's foreign policy, the foreign policy where he was a drone strike king. She saw that foreign policy and she was like, look at this fucking pussy. She thought he was weak. And now look at the subheadline here. Hillary Clinton is offering voters a more muscular version of Barack Obama's foreign policy. Fam, do you guys understand the bullet that we dodged? So what we've seen with Joe Biden right now is the foreign policy we would have got a few years ago. Can you imagine the situation we would have been in if we was in the second term of the Hillary Clinton presidency right now instead of just the first term of Joe Biden? She was trying to put
that would have been 2 years after the coup in Maidan in 2014 in Ukraine. So we'd be doing the same thing, and the same people would be getting enriched. And as you all know, I worked for Leon Panetta for a time. Leon Panetta's been trotting around on MSNBC and other outlets talking about his pro-Ukraine stance. Well, what they don't put underneath his name is that he's on the board of Raytheon. So he's pocketing a bunch of money. And, that's the hypocrisy around this. They're all just making bank off of people's death. It's blood money. It is blood money, and it's awful. And I think, I have to say, I don't miss that part of the U.S. I miss my friends. I miss my family. I miss my pets. But I tell you what, I do not miss the Biden regime. And I've never seen our country in more dire straits than this moment. I have never seen our country and people suffering like this moment. I mean, even under Reagan, when I was a kid, it wasn't this bad. And then we're just close to nuclear war. And I mean, it's frankly lucky that Vladimir Putin is in power, because he's very patient. He's not going to do a preemptive strike. They have a law against it. They will not do that. But you look at the UN, I've had on my show, and you should have him on, Dmitry Polyansky, from the Russian Federation, who's he just recently had Max Blumenthal on, and Shea Bose, who did a fantastic job, briefing the UN Security Council about the weapons going in Ukraine, about the money and the money laundering. But anyway, Dmitry, his Russian, delegation get blocked every time they want to try to have a brief or present the truth by American and English delegations. In September, they have a Russian, probably it's Lavrov is going to come across at the end of September for the big UN thing, to have a discussion about all of this, right? They won't allow the Russian media to come to the US. They're denying visas. They're keeping it. I mean, so there's no attempt at diplomacy or peace. I mean, I don't even know how these diplomats operate in this kind of climate. It's unconscionable what's happening.